Well, hi everybody, and thank you all for coming. Yeah, so I'm just really basically going to take questions from this point on, although I should point out that in the event that no questions are forthcoming, I do go into self-questioning mode. You won't like it? I don't like it, frankly, you know, but it's kind of an emergency release valve, as it were, you know. It basically involves me asking some commonest questions. For example, where did you get your ideas from? Always a popular one. And what does the M stand for? If you have a basic rough idea, where do I get my ideas from? A wee man in Auchtermuchty? Or Class A drugs? Both lies, obviously. And what does the M stand for? Well, mainstream. See what I'm doing there? Or money, you know. No, not really. I don't really like doing research. My favourite sort of research is research I find I've done accidentally, you know, just by living. You know, I think I'd like to do some research into. Oh, I've already done it. You know, I wonder what's like a car crash. Oh yeah, I've done that. Yeah, etc. So yeah, research kind of ban really. But yeah, another thing that you don't have to research is getting older. That kind of just comes with the territory, basically. If you're right about the far future, the effective far future, you can't do the research. You get used to just winging it. You can't actually go to other planets and interview aliens. So, Mr. Alien, how does it feel being an alien? Not going to happen, you know. Changing sex. Now, you know, I'm quite comfortable being, you know, heterosexual male. You know, being Scottish, I kind of have to be. There's no real choice. But at the same time, we do think, especially if, as you do in the culture, another thing is you live for a minimum of about 300-400 years. You know, so you have quite a long, you know, space of being the same sort of person or whatever, and you don't even deteriorate that fast either. And even then, in the culture, death is not compulsory. You know, it's like sort of opt-in, you know, a sort of fallow period, really, you know, set aside. So I thought, well, even if it took a year or whatever, you could sort of change from being male to being female, or being female to being male, then that would be at least interesting, and it might by itself lead to a less sort of sexist society, even if, I always imagine culture being a pretty cool, groovy and non-sexist place anyway, but I think if you have spent some time as, you know, the other side, as it were, of the gender gap, then it would give you more an insight and more sympathy with, you know, with the gender that you're not, as it were, whether you're born into it or whatever. And also, I mean, there's a semi-serious point, both to that and to the drug gland thing. If you discover in your society, because you've got drug glands, you're looking around and you realise that no one's actually with you, they're all stoned out of their boxes all the time, that probably means there's something wrong with reality, right? So there's kind of an indicator there. In the same way, if you look around, you realise, bloody hell, we're all female, we're all the men, or vice versa. You think, that's probably slightly wrong. There should be a roughly 50-50 balance, you'd imagine, in a healthy society. It should be equally rewarding to be either gender, you know. I think most of us guys still think it's more fun to be a woman, but, you know, well, not in our society, but ideally, do you know what I mean? You know, technically. And the whole thing about this book, in Hydrogen Sonata, it's largely about this process called subliming, with a capital S, of course. And that's really because I've kind of mentioned it in just sort of a sort of throwaway thing. Kind of as part of the overall sort of sociological or civilizational process that the galaxy would do. This great sort of, the idea of the great sort of rolling boil of civilizations, that people come up and eventually, where do they go? You know, a lot of them become elder species, some of them just, you know, get wiped out, whatever. I thought there might be another way out. I just came up, subliming. Yeah, they go off to a sort of, you know, provable sort of heaven, a nirvana, but a genuine one. You know, that's made up one. You know. Yes, my son, God does exist. Yeah. Fingers behind the back. Yeah. They got the joke. They weren't laughing, but they got the joke. Anyway, so that came about because I mentioned an earlier book, and in the same way, the whole thing about these sort of virtual heavens, and again, but virtual ones, not sort of real ones in the sense of they are in subliming. That I've sort of dealt with in surface detail. That came about from, I think it was Accession that this stuff, no, Look to Windward it was mentioned in. And it was only later I thought about it and I thought, actually, I've made a big deal about that being specific to the Cheldrains. Actually, everybody would have that. I thought, yeah, so I just kind of rewrote the history of it as I went through and, you know, the next book. So a lot of it, yeah, I'm now sort of writing about stuff that I wrote, you know, sort of en passant in various earlier novels. So it's, they're generating their own. And now, for the first time, I realised this when I was looking back through my notes, at the moment, kind of stupidly, I go through periods of like having all my ideas in one big lump in a document on the computer, and other times when they're split up into mainstream ideas and science fiction ideas, which is much more sensible. But I happen to look, but I do colour code. Yes, science fiction ones are in red and blue. I'm not sure why that is either. It could have made sense at the time, probably a few months ago. And the mainstream ones are just in plain old, boring vanilla, well, black and white, right? And I noticed that, I looked back at it, I thought, actually I've got enough material for a brand new culture book already. Now this never normally happens, it's usually one, it's like just-in-time production kind of stuff. But I thought, yeah, because I thought there's a whole sort of raft of ideas I had to leave out of Hydrogen Sonata because it was just going to get too ridiculously big. So yeah, for the first time I've actually got a whole one ready to go. So if anything, the process is speeding up. Bizarrely, when I was trying to think of ideas for what turned out to be the Hydrogen Sonata, this was about this time last year, maybe a month or two earlier, for some bizarre reason my brain, which I do regard often as a separate entity, came up with ideas for sequels to 2 non-culture novels, which is not helpful, in my well, it just wasn't, I wanted to be a culture novel, and then my brain went, but how about a sequel to I guess that background, what, and then the algebraist, and things like, I love my publishers, we have a very good relationship, and they obviously dote upon me. However, I know that when I say the next science fiction novel is not a culture novel, there's a wee sort of the wee sort of you saw it, yeah. Whereas, yes, and it's a culture novel. It makes it very happy. So my brain coming up with 2 ideas, sequels for like 2 non-SF novels is not actually that useful, really. I mean, I can still do them, and I thought, that would work, As I say, I do actually have another culture one pretty much ready to go anyway, so that's a couple of years away, I guess. So I've got another mainstream one to write in the meantime. Years ago, I was trying to remember what colour drones' aura fields went when they were angry. I thought, is it grey? I thought, is it red? White. It's a bit kind of obvious. White. I think I went for white. Because red seemed kind of too culturally stereotypical for us, So I thought, yeah, because you start thinking about that, all sort of, even racial things come into it. Like people turn red, well, only white people turn red. Maybe black people do, but you can't see it, so you can't actually just use that as an automatic signifier. So, and anyway, what about people who've got like blue blood? Mr. Spock, does he turn blue? It sounded like something from Avatar when he gets angry, whatever. So you obviously couldn't just go for red. It seemed too obvious. So I went for white, but having written that once in one book, a book later I thought, what colour was it again? And I just couldn't remember. So I've now got a document called Culture Facts. And some of it is deeply fucking nerdy. I mean, in a way, like, one of the great temptations when you're a science fiction writer is that you can create, these fabulous, civilizations and great, huge amounts of stuff. Physical stuff and philosophical stuff, whatever. And the temptation is then to smash it all to buggery. Basically destroy it all. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the time I spend my time trying to think up, cool stuff, and the air spheres and the shell worlds definitely fall into that category. Just stuff to make the galaxy, the external reality more interesting, and not always have to back on planets. I still have this horror of basically finding myself writing, something that could basically be filmed as a Doctor Who episode in a quarry, or the original Star Trek or something, or some jaggy rocks outside Pasadena. So I'm always trying to think of things that aren't just an ordinary planet that you actually. Basically, I'm trying to write myself out of film adaptations. That's what I'm trying to do. The things that write themselves the fastest are always action sequences. Those always go really, really quickly. I really enjoy doing those. In some ways, the most self-indulgent bits, but I think of something that I think is funny. And I do a wee sort of, bit of dialogue that I think is funny. I laugh out loud, like a drain. Someone has to. And occasionally, my girlfriend will come in and say, "What are you laughing at? I just wrote this." Oh, that.